are you doing, Sarah?
I'm good. Just had a really long day.
Yeah, me too. That's why I was running late. Bedtime was taking forever. Yeah. Thank you so much for the time, though. I know you are busy and have a crazy schedule. So I know this is a lot that you are taking the time to join us. I'm so excited for this. So thank you. Yes. So should we start?
Yes, please.
Awesome. So many of you don't know this, actually. Probably nobody does. But the way I met Sarah was hilarious.
Fair enough. It should be fun.
That we are actually from the same part of Nigeria.
Yes, we are. We absolutely are.
And I had no idea until she PM'd me and said, Tubera. And I was like, wait, what? I think I was too excited. I didn't reply.
Yeah,
my husband later was like, did you reply to her? I was like, nope. I was like, what? So that's crazy.
I recognize those names.
The name.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So we met because I think I messaged you after watching one of the videos you did, Equilibrium, and that I found really helpful. So yeah, that's how, because I'm new to the music industry, especially here in the UK, and I found that really helpful. So I messaged you saying thank you so much for that video, and then we got talking. And it's actually pretty amazing to me that you are still working full-time and still doing music and have basically been kicking ass and doing things. So
joy.
That is amazing. And I've just been looking for the opportunity to just chat to you about the journey and the lots and lots of things I'm sure we can learn from you. So thank you so much for joining us. So let's start by telling us more about yourself, your family, and your journey as a musician.
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Teibo. I am what they call a Britgerian. So I was born in the UK, but I'm Nigerian. I grew up in Nigeria as well. So I've got
a new one for me.
Yeah, I know, right? So I've got a good mix of the culture, the background, and the lifestyle, the taste in music, the taste in food, the language, as Maybe has said. I'm from the southern part of Nigeria, which is, I don't know about your state, but my mom is from Bayelsa and my dad is from Delta. But it's still the Ijaw speaking part of Nigeria. It's the Ijaw speaking. So I can always tell when I see an Ijaw name. And but my husband is Yoruba. So and it's been, I mean, in terms of my music journey, I started literally from the age of 10 singing in choirs. Obviously not professional, as you know. It's just a thing you do for fun. You just have, a great time singing Oh Happy Day in the children's church. But I think from that age, I was kind of identified as somebody with potential, even though I didn't have a clue. I just realized that I was always being asked to do the solo, to lead the songs, not really knowing why that was. But anyway, moving into my teenage years, singing in the teens church, and then at the same time starting to lead worship and learning to write songs as well. So we started getting challenges on writing our own songs in the church, in the youth church. So that was how the gift started being spurred on. And in my household, we did a lot of singing. We loved music. My mum and my dad actually had a great collection of music, from Motown through to High Life and Afrobeats, and then Jim Reeves on Sunday. So it was everything that you could think of in terms of music, taste, palette, and all the things that would inspire a young person in terms of just exploring and being inquisitive about music was in our household. So it was really, really good. There was no holds barred in terms of what we could explore musically, which is really cool. But then obviously in terms of just starting up musically, 2015, I put my first single out, Still My Joy, first album out in 2016, and I recently released my third album in July. So still work full time, still married with 2 kids, and I think probably because I always done music in parallel with everything else I've done, been in school and in the choir, went to uni, always in the choir. It's always just been running in parallel with my life. So it's probably why I'm quite used to doing it even now. It's just like an appendage that you can't do away with. So yeah, it's a part of me now, more or less. But that's a bit about me. I love cooking. I love exploring and experimenting with food from around the world. I love shoes, and sadly with COVID, my shoes have just been sitting in the shelves, not being able to explore the outside world. But hopefully that changes soon. So that's a bit about me.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, do you know what? You, though, have a lot going on. It's not just music, because I see like the equilibrium, I see lots of different stuff. So you're actually doing pretty well.
Thank you.
The music videos, you've gone on tours as well. So you make it sound like it's real. I just do it on the side. I've always done it on the side, but there is doing it on the side, and there is doing it on the side. Okay, so do you want to tell us about your recent album? Actually, what would be interesting is if you tell us about what your inclination or your usual sound is, and then the change and the recent album you've released.
It's interesting you say usual sound. I don't even know what that means, but I think I know where you're coming from. You're referring to the first two albums I released, which were more on the contemporary urban gospel sound side, rather, compared to the new one, which is more the worship, contemporary worship, congregational worship. And I have been asked this question, so much so that I decided to make it the first track of the album. So,
actually,
literally, if you go and listen to the album, you will get the speech there. In the first track of the album explains the sort of sideways move, and actually it's called Rubik's Cube. The first track on the album is called Rubik's Cube, and it's an excerpt of an interview I did with this very same question, where I actually explain the fact that I'm like a Rubik's Cube. You can combine the different pieces, all you get is worship. It comes out different each time. And so with the first album, it was worship expressed as R&B, soul, and gospel. And this time it's combined and it's worship expressed as congregational worship. But it's really at the heart of who I am, and I think it's at the heart of who God has called us to be. We're the only creature who have the ability to maintain relational connections with God. God made everything. He made the sand, the sun, the sea, the seals, the birds, the chimpanzees, and he made man. But no other creature can maintain and sustain relationships with God other than us. So it just goes to show you that the essence of our existence is to worship, and the essence of music is to glorify God. The essence of everything that we do as Christians when we release music is to point people to God, to give people something to look to God for, even if it's just their understanding of who he is, their understanding of who they've been called to be in him. And so for me, regardless of the genre, worship that's produced from a heart of a Christian person and with the Spirit of God inspiring should ultimately point people to God. And that could be any sound. Worship doesn't have to be a Hillsong and elevation. It can be any sound. It can be any genre. Ultimately, it's pointing people to God, and it's giving them a state of surrender. It's putting them in a state that they're prostrate before him, and they're concentrating, and their hearts are fixed. Their gaze is fixed on him. So I think the challenge is we've unintentionally boxed certain sounds, and so when we hear certain genres, we don't think they can be worship. But if the lyrics point you to God,
absolutely.
That's all it takes.
I totally agree with you, and I love how you talk about it, because when you come on the music scene, the first thing you hear is what you need to clarify your sound. You need to, it's all about, you need to, I think, and everyone says, well, it's just so you can market your music, but actually, if you what you're saying is that there's actually a bigger class, and that's just worship. It doesn't matter what genre or what you lean towards. I really love that. It's all worship. And
it's two things really. It's worship and it's good music. And if there's anyone that we can look at who exemplifies that, it's Kirk Franklin. And the reason I say that is because, number one, he's not a great singer. Let's just face the fact. But he makes some of the best music that actually makes you worship. There are so many songs of Kirk Franklin that may not be sung for praise and worship, but trust me, they take you to a place in worship, in reverence, in meditation. And so you can't box Kirk Franklin into a genre. One minute he's doing a collaboration with a CCM artist. The next minute he's doing collaboration with a rap artist. Next he's doing a collaboration with a rock and roll artist. But all the songs, number one, they're excellent in their standard. The songwriting is unparalleled, and they point you to God.
Yeah.
So he exemplifies exactly what I've just said. You can't box Kirk Franklin, but his music makes you worship, and it's at a standard that even the world recognizes. And that is really what we should be looking, obviously not to be a Kirk Franklin, but that kind of, you know, example is what's been set for us to kind of emulate where we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Really love that. Yeah, brings me to why I chose the picture for the podcast.
Oh yeah.
The one where I'm looking up, because I'm hoping all the conversations point people to God. Just the
yeah, that's a good
I'll
one.
put that in there. So, do you have any struggles or regrets that you have experienced as an artist?
Plenty of struggles. I try not to have regrets. There's one thing I learned in probably 15 years ago, which is that children of God should never have regrets. So even if I'm disappointed, I still believe that there's something coming out of it. And so I try not to have regrets, but I have disappointments. That one you can't really get away from. I think there's quite a few actually, but I think for me, one of the biggest struggles is always when I set certain expectations and I don't achieve them. It's like, you know, maybe I'm like, am I aiming too high, you know? And so sometimes you're disappointed because what you set out to achieve just didn't come through. But yeah, so I think for me, that's the one thing that sometimes it's like, you know, I set certain goals and I just don't hit them. Maybe I'm too hard on myself. Maybe I'm just setting unnecessarily high bars, but I guess that's me. So it just kind of spurs me on. And I think that's the one thing. I'd say probably another I don't want to say disappointment, but another thing that probably could be improved upon, and which I'm starting to see some change in, is the support system that we have, particularly in the UK. The support system is not very present, I should say. And so, and again, because I tend to always look past the challenge and look how I can work around it, I just get on with it. But that is a challenge. I think not everyone is going to be resilient enough to try and just work their way around and just make things happen themselves, you know. But that's a big challenge for many independent artists in the UK, is an infrastructure and a support system that's not really there. And I know it's kind of coming together. We need people to be there to help regardless. I mean, sometimes you find there's to be some discrimination, even though it's subtle. There's very subtle discrimination. There's ageism and there is sexism, even within this very small genre that we have, and it's very subtle. All you need to do is look at a flyer for an event and you just realize there's no females. Like, are there no women who can come, you know? Or look at a website and you find there's no people who are over 30. What, do they not sing? You know, so there's subtle ageism and subtle sexism as well, which I think is something that is a bit of a challenge. But as I say, I just look past and I work around. But not everyone has the mentality and the resilience to do that. So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. So I'm pretty sure lots of people who are also in the music industry are listening. So I think hopefully we all just begin to think of ways that we can begin to support each other more as a community. I think be a really good place to start. There's one thing that A Step Forward is now doing. I think I've seen a couple where you actually pick a music or an artist that you are I suppose speaking and encouraging, and you're just putting that on your page. I think that's a really good thing that we can probably begin to do for other people.
Yeah, I do that a lot actually. I kind of share people's stuff. I don't mind, because I personally believe, and as you can tell from Equilibrium, I believe that the more of us that succeed, the better it is for the genre. You can't have a genre with only 1 or 2 or 5 people who are, doing well and excelling. I mean, for a genre to be recognized, it has to have many people who are doing really well and who are strong. You can look at any genre of music and you'd find so many names to name of people who are working, who are operating at the highest standard, at the highest level. And that only comes from collaboration and recognizing one another, encouraging one another, supporting one another. And of all the genres that should be doing that, we who have been called to love our neighbor as ourselves should be the ones who excel at such. But it's such a disappointment that in many cases that's not the way it comes across.
Yeah, okay. So 2 things that I just want to reiterate. You do not have regrets. You have lessons learned is how.
It's more like it, yeah. That's literally
Great, yeah.
Yeah. From disappointment, there's always a lesson to learn. So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to tell us about the top 2 or 3 things that you think helped you in really growing your audience?
Audience, that's a good one.
You do have an amazing audience. So what do you think were the things that you did in the past that really helped with this?
I think, firstly, before I even grew an audience, I actually invested in educating myself when it came to music business, because I think building an audience is part of your music business strategy.
True.
So it all boils down to, how did I step into this thing called music? And it came from actually paying for a music consultant to have sessions even before I finished writing any songs, put anything out, because I really was curious about how the mainstream people, mainstream artists, were able to excel, and why we don't see a mirror of that on the flip side, in the Christian space. And it wasn't a case where only so if you look at the American gospel scene, American artists do really well, just almost on par with American mainstream artists. Obviously, they will not necessarily be as successful as mainstream artists, because they're not going to show their flesh, we hope. So that would obviously be where the border, or the line is drawn, I should say. But in the UK, right, you have mainstream artists doing really well. So it's not a case of the UK is a small island and so we can't have great artists. Mainstream artists from the UK go to the US and win Grammys. Mainstream artists in the US and Christian artists in the US are operating on the same level to a degree, right? You could have a Kirk Franklin, a Mary, a CeCe Winans on a billboard on the streets, right? So not necessarily a Christian artist in the UK. Not to say we're looking for fame and fortune, but the point is, I was curious to know how we could actually kind of operate on par with our mainstream peers as Christian and gospel artists. So starting out, I was quite keen to understand the business side of things, because for me, we have a bigger message. I mean, last week someone was asking me a similar question. She was asking me, what motivates you? What drives you? Why do you approach things the way you do? And I said to her, it's because we have a much bigger message. The message that we have as Christians is life-changing. It's inspiring. It brings hope. It saves lives. It doesn't just change lives, but it saves lives. So the music that we produce with these messages, they're on a mission. The music that we produce should not be sitting in a room of 20, 30 people, should not just be listened to by all our WhatsApp friends. The message on the mainstream side of things is empty. It's like a flat Coke. It doesn't do anything for you, right? But then they back it up with all these massive marketing strategies to push out a song that really has no essence and no meaning. Whereas we on the flip side have all these powerful messages that people would listen to and decide not to kill themselves, or listen to and decide, actually, I'm not alone in this, or decide, you know what, there's hope for tomorrow. But then we limit how we market and promote. So for me, it's like, we just have a message that needs to reach as many people as possible. So that is literally a long answer to a short question. That is one of the things that drives me, one of the things that informs how I approach the strategic part of my music. And just, I know I'm never going to be heard by everyone in the world, but at least let's get the song as far as it can go, rather than just be mediocre about what we produce. Yeah, we have to be as aggressive. I know people don't like to hear that word, as aggressive about the gospel as the people who don't have the gospel are aggressive about their music. We have a bigger, more powerful message, and so we should be passionate in that regard. So that is kind of what informs what I do. So, I mean, when I started out, I did all of that kind of knowledge gathering and then applying the wisdom to, as you say, growing and identifying my audience. It's really about analyzing your data. That's literally what it comes down to. So for me, the first gig I did, I think, was free. Yeah, in 2016, when I launched my album, I had Lisa McClendon. It was a free concert. But then you start getting people subscribed to your newsletter. It's like analyzing, what kind of age groups, where are they? What are they interested in? Which are the artists that, the music do they listen to? And then you start assessing how they respond to you, if it's on social media, if it's your actual events. and then you can tailor what you do to the different subsets of your audience. For example, on my second album, as a matter of fact, on my first album, there was an Afrobeat song, which most people don't know, but there was a lady who kept hammering on saying, this song, this song, this song. So I knew, okay, yeah, I'm going to always have an Afrobeat song on my album. So my second album, Blessed has more streams than all the songs on the album combined.
Wow.
And so I knew, studying the demographics, studying, my followers, that is a benchmark. You have to have an Afrobeat song on all the other projects. And so even though this project is a worship, the new album called Restored, by the way, for those who may not know, is out everywhere. It's more contemporary corporate worship. It's a resource. It's actually a resource for worship. So it's an album that you can take and use for your personal worship time. You can sing in church with your choir. You can use to lead worship. There's so many songs on the album, which I've been getting messages from people who are using the songs in their worship experiences in church. But then on the album, we still have an Afrobeat song, which is equally a praise and worship song, which you can use for praise and worship. But the idea is I've identified a subset of the demographic that likes such things, and therefore you need to cater to them. So it's one thing to know, who's following you. It's another thing to kind of assess what they like, what their tastes and preferences are, and always look to cater to that subset of your following, and then engage. If you're on social media, people take the time to comment on your stuff, at least like and comment back, and be accessible, and be responsive, and never, and one thing I've learned, I've always tried to be nice to people. I always try to be approachable, but every time it keeps happening that I see somebody and they know somebody who knows somebody who knows me. I'm like, wow, thank God I'm always nice. At least I try, because you never know who you're talking to. So always try and be nice. It's as simple as that. Be nice as much as you can, because you just never know who you're talking to. So I guess that's a bit of a long answer to a short question, but I hope that's helped.
Those are really, really useful things to do, honestly, because I've never actually thought about that. Just saying, okay, I have people that like Afro. Funny enough, even though Nigerian, Irish, I have not thought about writing an Afro song yet.
Okay.
I'm still at
you have to do what's true to you, though. You don't have to write an Afrobeat song if it's not who you are.
Exactly. But actually, I think that's really useful, because you have identified something and you just replicate it. It will bring results. So I think that's really useful. I wanted to ask you to talk more about your recent project, so the new album, and what led you to make it as accessible as you've done. Just wanted to ask you to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure. So the album Restored, as I said, is a resource for worship, and that instruction actually came really loud and clear to me in 2018 when I was in South Africa on tour, and I literally had just released my second album, and I was promoting it at the time, and I just heard in my spirit, your next album should be a worship album. And I've always said this. I've said, when I speak for myself as a worship leader, when I take, count or take stock of the songs I'm going to use for worship, I'm looking for a number of things. The number one thing I'm looking for is sound doctrine. I'm looking for songs that are balanced scripturally. Obviously, they have to be catchy, they have to be relatable, they have to have, memorable hooks that everyone in the church can easily remember, not too wordy, but scriptural soundness. So when I got that instruction, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a very different kettle of fish from the last two albums, because scripturally they have to be on point. If the songs on the album are going to be a resource that people would take and use on stage to lead worship, which is different from the other two albums, because they were more so songs that you can enjoy as inspirational gospel music in your car, in your church as well. You can sing it for a special, but not necessarily let's rise up and lift our voices in worship. They weren't made for that purpose. They're made for a different reason. And the thing about music that we sing, and all the music we sing, especially within the Christian space, does inform our knowledge of God and our theology, but more so the music that comes from the pulpit informs our theology almost just as much as a sermon. You could go into church and hear a sermon. You could go into church and hear a choir special, you may not remember the sermon, but you'd always remember the song 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
I was singing the song actually today. I saw an email and it just it blew me away, the content of the email, and I just started singing a worship song. And you know, these things are seeds that are sown. The songs that we listen to in church are seeds that are sown, and they come up at the right time. I remember 14 years ago, my pocket was picked. I just left the ATM and my wallet just disappeared magically. It was the worst experience I'd ever had in my entire life. Just feeling violated, just realizing, hold on a minute, I just withdrew £140 and I can't find it. Can't find my wallet, nothing. And as I was walking to the police station, I was just singing the song that says, God's got a blessing with your name on it. Out of nowhere. That's a Donald Lawrence song. God's got a blessing with your name on it. I'm like, why am I singing this song? I just had my pocket picked, you know. And so music, especially music that comes from the altar, stays with us, and it helps us through challenges as well. So that for me was the biggest I would say challenge, because I was literally saying to God, I need you on this project more so than anything else, because that is a huge responsibility. Writing for worship is a huge responsibility, and so I surrounded myself with people who I could actually get to vet my songs as I was writing them. And I remember there was one particular song I wrote whilst actually studying the Bible, and I was really excited about it. And then when I sent it to the pair of friends that I'd been working with, one of them said, yeah, I'm not digging this particular vamp, because it's like, so would we not praise God otherwise? You know, I don't want to go into too much detail, but then I took it off. I had to, but this is the thing. So for me, it was like, it had all or nothing in terms of scriptural balance. It was all or nothing. So if I gave you all the stories behind the songs on the album, each of them came from a place of either intimacy, prayer, worship, studying the word, but it was all underpinned by scripture, all underpinned by the Spirit, because ultimately the idea is that people can then take these songs and use them in their personal worship. And it's been really encouraging for me, because on YouTube, the comments that I see on the videos, honestly, they break me down. They actually sometimes well up in tears. There's one particular comment that I would never forget. The lady, I don't know these people. There are thousands of them commenting on YouTube. I know probably 1% of the people commenting. And one particular lady said she's going through it. She was listening to Secure on YouTube, and she said she's going through a spiritual warfare, and Secure is on repeat in her ear gates. I've never heard anyone use that word before. She said ear gates. So she said, I've just got Secure on repeat in my ear gates as I fight this battle. I'm thinking, you know, so for me, it's kind of like job done, you know, that people can actually take these songs and use them for the purpose intended. It's job done for me. So yeah.
That's amazing. I was laughing when you were talking about writing, and then having your friends say, actually, no, I do not agree with this, because I go through the exact same. I have a mentor, like a writing coach, who also does the same with me. And sometimes I'm so excited about a song, and I take it to him, and he's like, no. It's like, no. This is why it's good to have,
that's why it's good to have like peer reviews of your song, and be vulnerable and willing to take on feedback and criticism, constructive criticism as well. Really
I must say though that the way I grew as a songwriter was one-on-one reviews, because I've had one or two where it was in groups. I feel like either the person who was given the review didn't want to go too deep because other people were listening in.
Okay.
So just to encourage people out there, if you feel that you are not getting lots from your song reviews, then there are coaches out there who are able to do one-on-one with you, because I think that's one of the best ways to grow as a writer.
Absolutely, yeah. Which is why I do one-to-ones on my mentoring as well. I don't do groups, because each person has a unique journey. Yeah,
absolutely. And what you were saying about getting a consultant in either the music business side of things or the marketing side of things, and all these various parts of the music business is like unparalleled. I think lots of people just think, oh, you just need to write the song and get a good producer and bring out good music, and it will just market itself, and all of these things will begin to happen, and they don't realize the amount of work that happens underneath all of that that there's a lot more that happens. And I think it's definitely worth an investment. There are lots of people out there that are able to give you one-on-one coaching, and it just starts with a couple of hours, because by the time they actually they sit down with you and go through things, and then you just begin to apply one or two and see the changes. No one tells you that you need that in your life,
exactly.
It's actually amazing. So even if it's just that you peak from tonight, that you need lots more than just writing a song and getting it produced and putting it out there. There is a lot more that happens if you really want to get it marketed and get it out there. So back to, by the way, guys, there will be maybe 5 to 10 minutes of questions at the end. So if you have questions, I'm looking at my computer. For anyone who may have, you can PM me. That's a reminder. All right. So can I ask you this question, Sarah? You have gone on tour. How many tours have you gone on?
Oh, I did one in Ghana, one in Nigeria, one in South Africa, one in Cyprus, and Australia.
Wow. And you've done 5 different tours. Okay. Would you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of an impact it had in your audience, in growing your audience?
It had a huge impact, because you get discovered by new people who probably didn't know you as much when you go to other countries. So I think the best one for me was probably Australia and Cyprus. Those two were really good. Yeah. The one in Ghana wasn't even planned. That's the funny thing. I didn't plan a tour for Ghana. I planned to take my mum to Ghana for her birthday. And honestly, and somebody found out I was coming and he arranged places for me to be at. So yeah, that was just
okay.
Cool.
So how many dates in a tour, roughly, on an average, were you doing?
It all depends. Oh, for me, it was a long weekend, really. Yeah, because I work full time. So, but obviously tours are different. People could do tours for a year, even if they wanted to just carry on touring. But it means you just do different cities, because obviously, I mean, there's just so many places you can go to, and you could do a month. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve and how much ground you're planning to cover, basically.
So what you're saying is a lot of your tours, you did them in a weekend.
A long weekend, yeah.
I'm trying to think about full-time job, family, and getting all of this. Yeah, so that puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
So moving on, I don't see a question yet. I will move on. So what is the most important advice that you can give to up and coming artists like me? Something that you wish someone had spoken to you when you were starting out.
Yeah, I can think of one easily, which is when you're creating music, involve everyone in your team along the entire creative process. Don't have your photo shoots after the fact. Don't involve your designer after the fact, because what tends to happen is it could be something absolutely random. And here's the thing, not everyone is terribly keen about the science of music artwork. So yeah, if it's not your cup of tea, that's fine. But for me, the artwork needs to speak to the song. It needs to really echo what the song is about. And that usually comes when you've involved the artist with the music and got them involved in the creative process, or at least walked them through what you're trying to achieve. Likewise, the photo shoot whoever's your photographer needs to be part of the vision. They need to understand what you're trying to achieve. And I say that because one day I'm going to share my first artwork, which never saw the light of day, because thank God for wise people I surround myself with. I'd done the song, at least I'd identified the debut single, and then I went to do the photo shoots in some random thing I found on Groupon, okay, and thinking I was saving money, and then I got somebody I knew from church to design me a picture, and yeah, it was absolute crap. But the point is, don't make that mistake, because that was a mistake I made. Just doing things and thinking, because a lot of the time we focus on the song, like, oh yeah, the song is done, and then everything is after the fact. Get everything aligned and just work through everything in parallel. Obviously, that didn't see the light of day because the people, my mentors and things, are like, nah, listen to your song, look at the artwork, it doesn't match. What's this? You know, so it's like, and then I had to spend money on another photo shoot, but then it had to be, you know, done with the music in perspective, which should have happened before. You know, so that's something you never get told. I didn't know. And I'd already gone and done a photo shoot, got somebody to design, you know, and one day I'm going to share that. Everyone's going to fall out their chairs laughing. But yeah, so that's definitely one thing I'd say, bit of advice. There's so many things I could say, but I'd probably just stick to that one.
Okay. So there are people that type in the messages in the actual chat. And it's really hard to see, so I'm going to try, but I don't get your message, can you actually message me privately, because I can actually see those. So there's a question here saying, how open is Sarah to collaboration with other up-and-coming gospel music ministers across Africa? Well, Nigeria to be precise.
Yeah, I'm open to collaborating with anyone from anywhere, to be fair. Yeah, it's all about the song. I think the important thing is the song. It has to be the right song. So, but yeah, I'm more than happy to chat. So
are you saying people should send songs?
Ideally, that's the idea. You want to collaborate, you've got a song, surely, so you want to send a song, and we'll see if it's the right song, then yeah, we can talk.
Okay. There's one here. What tips would you give for separating or incorporating the story/journey of your full-time job with your music? That's part A. How much of tour job, which is not related to your music, should you share on your music?
I don't understand the second question. I think I understand the first.
I think it's how much of your job, which is not related to your music, should you share on? Oh, I get that. So
basically the overlap between your personal life and your it's a thing of preference, to be honest. Everyone does things differently, and it also depends on how much of an interesting story your job is compared to your music. I mean, if, for example, you're a makeup artist, that's art in itself. If you're a painter, I was talking to one of my mentees who actually paints, and she didn't have any of her painting in any of the things that she was doing around her music, and I said that's an opportunity lost, because that is another creative aspect of yourself which fits perfectly, it shoehorns itself perfectly into your music. So if that's a career, then that works. I mean, but if you're a surgeon, not quite sure. To be fair, even in that you could find something. Yeah, you could literally have videos of, you know, your music being used in treatment or whatever. I mean, there's always something creative. It's down to the individual. Not everyone wants to make their day job a thing that people are aware of, for different personal reasons, and so you can't compel people to say you have to put your job alongside your music. But if it fits, then you just need to be creative about it, and there's literally no rule around how you go about it. So when you talk about separating or incorporating your story, your job, your full-time work, I mean, you've seen all sorts of things on the internet, on TikTok. You've seen dentists who do dances, you've seen doctors who do all sorts. So you could literally, there's no reason why you can, unless your organization is against you doing any such things. I mean, my company knows that I sing. When I do a song, I'm like, hey, this is a song. I'm even going to be coordinating a choir in the office at Christmas. So you just need to do what's right for you, and if it's a good fit for your career, for your music, for your goals, for your journey, then it could be an opportunity actually that you need to take advantage of. That would be my view anyway. Yeah,
that's great. That's really good. I like that. Okay, so for people who are just getting to know you, first of all, do you want to tell us about any future plans that you have, and then how they can contact you or follow you?
Yeah, so if you saw my post today on my Instagram or maybe Facebook, you'd have seen that I've put a post to say I'm starting a podcast. And yes, so I have recorded all the first 11 episodes of the first season. and it's going to be a very interesting one because it's conversations with guests every week, and we're going to be tackling the topics that Christians are sometimes too scared to talk about. And I still want people to guess the name of the podcast. They might win a prize. So I'm not going to say it on here. You go onto my feed and type what you think could be the name of the podcast before I make the official announcement. And that said, I have a rocket fuel mission going to fund promoting the podcast in terms of ads and graphics and stuff like that. But as you know, with rocket fuel, you get some exclusive merch in the course of supporting the podcast. So you get secure jumpers and t-shirts. You get some really cool exclusive stuff on there as well. Autumn's coming, so get yourself some really good secure, or maybe even Esprit Vian jumpers. So I've got some exclusive things on there, but the podcast is coming and it's going to be really, really exciting. I can't wait to tell you more about it, but you need to literally just, be on the trail and follow me. Follow all the news and updates on my Instagram, which is at Sarah Teibo Music, Facebook, Twitter, Sarah Teibo Music, on YouTube, Sarah Teibo Music, and I've got some amazing content on there which I think will bless you if you check it out.
Amazing. Okay, any other questions before we go? This has been fun.
Oh, good.
This has been really good. I think just to reiterate the key things that I think we can leave with today. So first of all, surround yourself with a team, which actually is a good point to ask. Who are members of your team?
Well, you don't necessarily need to employ people, let me just put it that way, when you're starting out, because you won't have the resources. Well, I wouldn't say you won't, you may come from a rich family, but you may not have the resources to employ a team when you start out. But you need to and this is where, knowing the music business comes into play, because if you don't know what you need to have, then you won't know who needs to be on your team, right? So you need to make a list of the things that you need. So obviously you need a producer, you need a distributor, you need a social media person, or you do it yourself. You need someone to do your PR, you need somebody to do your branding, you need someone to do your graphic designs. So all these things, you need to list them out and find out what you can do yourself and what you'd need to outsource. You need to have a band if you're planning on touring, an MD, things like that. At least one person who's always going to be there if you needed to sing and you need a musician. So that's really your team. And you may not always have them sat in a room all the time, but these are the people that are doing these particular functions. A photographer, whatever, just know for certain tasks, you have somebody. If you're not doing it yourself, you get on the phone and, get something going. So that's really what it means to have a team.
Yeah. So surround yourself with wise people.
More or less.
I like that. With people that will, and I think I really like the fact that number one, you trust them. Number two, you will listen to them. So there should be people that are maybe sound or even more advanced in terms of your knowledge. People that have gone on further and have more experience.
Absolutely, that's the idea.
Yeah. And then learn. That never finishes, that never ends. You have to gather information and study your demographic, study your audience, I really liked what you said about just learning. When you get disappointments, learn from them. So when I was learning about songwriting, I actually watched a video that said the exact same thing, that people go to church, they might not remember the message, but they will remember the songs that we sang. And basically that songs that we write are basically scriptures that stay with us.
Absolutely.
So that is a huge responsibility, and the fact that this album has been designed with that in mind and is doing so well is a testament to you saying yes to God and basically stepping out in faith, because yes, the songs are amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and the fact that you've been able to collaborate with so many people also just speaks to your heart as well. Which is why you're here with us today as well. So thank you so much for this time that you spent with us. I'm just going to check again for any more messages before we call it a night.
All right. I hope no one's DMing me with questions because I can't check my messages, unfortunately. So apologies if you're DMing me. I can't check my messages. Sorry.
Yeah, and that's it as well. I think that's it. But thank you so much for everyone who has joined. Yeah, this is going to be part of a podcast that I'm also working on. So I will hopefully, be getting it out at some point as well. Yeah, absolutely. But it's really talking about talking to people that have done things that inspire. It's called Inspiring Stories and people. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us, and hopefully it'll be out for everyone to enjoy soon in the future.
Excellent. All right.
Someone said, if you've not taken the time to hear Secure, you're not a Christian.
Oh, please, I won't go that far, but yeah, thanks for that. That's really kind of you.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks all. God bless.
Bye.
Bye.